You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. We've all absolutely been there, right? Staring at a blank page, just totally feeling the weight of what we actually need to accomplish. And then tomorrow becomes next week. It's such a simple, comforting lie, isn't it? Just taking one extra day to feel ready or to catch our breath. But before you know it, that comfort quickly turns into a quiet, creeping dread. The deadline gets closer, the task feels way heavier, and that innocent little decision to wait just snowballs into chronic avoidance.
And one day, you realize that your goals were not defeated by failure, they were defeated by delay. Seriously, it wasn't a lack of talent holding you back. It was just delay. And that's exactly why this explainer dives into Darius Foroux's book, Do It Today. It explains why we procrastinate, and more importantly, how one small action can finally break the cycle.
Section 1. Defeated by delay. Let's talk about breaking this cycle.
Section 2. The procrastination slope. Why we end up self-sabotaging.
Okay, to understand why we do this to ourselves, check out this hand-drawn stickman right here. Notice how the clear, perfectly organized start circle devolves over time into this massive, messy red squiggle. That is the absolute perfect visual for the chaos of distractions. You start out with crystal clear intentions, but along the way, YouTube, Instagram, negative self-talk, and minor setbacks just tangle up your focus into total chaos. And look at this curve. This brilliantly illustrates what we call the slope of procrastination. Notice how your productivity starts out super high, but the exact second you give in to just one tiny distraction, like checking the news for just 1 second, your productivity literally falls off a cliff. You slide right down that slope until the task is over, completely devoid of real focus. Now, this isn't just some quirky little habit. It has very real costs. A highly cited study published in the American Psychological Society Journal by Diane Tice and Roy Baumeister actually proved that procrastination is fundamentally a failure of self-regulation. Basically, we rely on the external, rising pressure of an imminent deadline to force us to get to work. We are essentially using sheer panic as our only motivator. And as you can guess, that leads straight to anxiety, low self-esteem, and depression.
Section 3. Systems beat willpower. Time to build your framework.
So if the problem is a lack of self-regulation, just trying harder isn't going to cut it. The absolute game changer here is realizing that willpower is basically a myth. We love to pretend we have this endless well of discipline, right? That we can just force ourselves to work. But instead of relying on willpower, a resource that depletes super quickly, we need to build rigid systems. Systems are sustainable, rule-based frameworks that literally protect us from our own stupidity and our endless temptations.
So what goes into a real, science-backed productivity system? Well, you need self-imposed deadlines to create a sense of urgency. You definitely need to work in intervals to maintain your focus. You absolutely must ruthlessly eliminate distractions. And perhaps most importantly, you need internal motivation. Knowing the actual why behind what you're doing makes even the most tedious tasks manageable.
Section 4. Eliminate the time wasters. Let's reclaim your schedule.
To actually pull this off, remember, you can't manage what you don't measure. Step 1 is know thy time. Try keeping an activity log for just 2 weeks. Like Jim Rohn used to say, you have to play back the tapes of your day. Once you actually see where your hours are going. Step 2 is identifying the tasks that yield zero return. And step 3, just ruthlessly eliminate them. If stopping a random recurring activity wouldn't cause the world to end, just cut it out completely.
This brings up such a fantastic analogy from Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art. He asks one simple question: are you an amateur or a pro? See, an amateur waits around for inspiration to strike before they finally sit down to work. But a pro? The pro relies completely on their system. They sit down and put in that steady, consistent work every single day, no matter how they happen to be feeling.
Section 5. The power of pausing. How to sustain your energy. Part of being a pro is knowing how to keep that energy going. We kind of have this toxic idea that being productive means grinding away until you physically drop. But to actually protect your focus, you have to respect the power of the number 5. That's the crucial 5-minute break you absolutely must take. Stand up, stretch, grab some water, or just walk away from your desk. It pulls you out of the weeds and totally resets your perspective.
And here's the catch. That 5-minute break needs to happen every 30 minutes. You might know this as the Pomodoro technique, but it's actually rooted deep in our evolutionary biology. Our brains evolved to constantly scan for threats, meaning they literally cannot focus on one single prolonged task without getting severely fatigued. By taking a quick 5-minute pause every half hour, you deactivate and then reactivate your focus, keeping your brain razor sharp.
Because if you skip those breaks, well, you end up exactly here. Check out this sketch chart. You've got this long, flat blue line of relaxing at the start of the semester, and then, bam, followed by a terrifying, massive red spike of pure panic at the end. Dale Carnegie hit the nail on the head when he said, "Rest before you get tired." Taking strategic breaks and time blocking completely prevents this catastrophic cycle of anxiety and burnout. Section 6. Compounding your success. Let's talk about sustaining that momentum. To keep this going over an entire lifetime, Foroux introduces this genuinely fascinating idea: living like you are immortal. Now, the mortal mindset basically screams, YOLO. Life is short, so we rush to get everything done today, spend all our cash, and burn out super fast. But the immortal mindset, that flips the script entirely. If you imagine you have forever, you stop rushing. You patiently build your skills, you save up, you invest in your future, and honestly, you just treat people better. This ties in beautifully with a great quote from authors Keller and Papasan. Success is sequential, not simultaneous. We always want everything to happen all at once, right? But true wealth, profound skills, and deep relationships, they are built one single step at a time. It's all about stringing together small wins, rather than crossing your fingers for some miraculous overnight success.
And what that really boils down to is consistency. Consistency is your ultimate weapon. If you can manage to improve by just 0.1% every single day, maybe by leaning into stoic and pragmatic philosophies to build up your mental toughness, those tiny, seemingly invisible gains will literally compound into massive life transformations over the years. Inconsistency is, without a doubt, the true enemy of results.
So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. What will you do today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. It is time to break your cycle of delay. Skip all the excuses, drop the perfectionism, and just take one small, focused action right now. Because the life you actually want to live, it isn't just waiting for you somewhere in the distant future. It's built entirely by what you choose to do today.